This is the Tapped In Podcast, the podcast for beverage distributors that want to empower their sales team to drive business results. Listen up and welcome back to another episode of the Tapped In Sales Podcast, your podcast for beer distributors by beer distributors. I am your moderator for the day, but here with Moneyball Ross and Data Mike. Boys, we were just sitting here at home because we all work from home, and we had our sprinkler guy was blowing out the sprinkler system for the summertime for the wintertime. And I sit right here by the front door and he hit on my wife. Way up here. I can see you and I can hear you right here, bro. And she rolls in and she says, I still got it.
I love it. Nice.
Oh, I love it.
So I need to do that too. I need to not hit on Sarah, but I need to blow out my sprinkler system.
To blow out your sprinkler system.
I think we still got a couple more weeks here.
We're doing it early because they said you could do it now or you could do it like in 3 weeks. And last year, we fortunately have video evidence of this from one of the outside cameras. But the guy ripped our door, different guy this year, but the guy from last year ripped our gate door off of its hinges by pushing it the wrong way. It's like, and then he didn't even fix it. He just left it sitting there. I'm like, bro, you gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding me. So Sarah wanted to be here when it actually happened this trip. So that is what we were up to this morning. So speaking of what I got to do next, Mikey, this is going to be a little centered around you today. From an area sales manager or a team lead perspective and your background as well, you just got dropped this change in your lap around VXP, or really this could be about any change. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about this change being dropped in your lap around VXP and what a middle manager might need to do to kind of manage around this or get excited about it and start to get their reps excited about it, because you're going to be put in a unique position as an aerial sales manager to kind of deal with the front line block and tackling of implementing this change. And leadership signed off. They're excited. They've been working with us for a while behind the scenes. Now this has been kind of lolloped into your lap like a hot potato. And that can cause all kinds of challenges internally with, I'm fearful of the change because people don't like change, right? Or I am excited about this, but I don't really know what it does yet. So I need to learn what it does yet. And how do I get into that? And then I've got a fleet of reps that probably even have amplified more amount of fears for one reason or another. So just a fun ball of soup and ball of wax today, right, Mikey?
Yeah. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Sounds like a ton of fun. So guys like Ross and I have come up with these ideas. We're, as you know, more of the senior leader group at our former wholesaler life. And now we're going to force this change down your throat, Mikey. So what's the first thing that you think when you hear change like this as an ASM and as a former team lead?
It's usually scary, and you're, as an ASM or as a middle manager, you're stuck in a weird spot. You're stuck in the middle, right? You're just like that, boom, it's dropped on you. The GM is thrilled, reps are pissed, and here you are stuck in the middle, trying to make sure everything is kosher, right? And you fear that you might be losing the reps' trust, right? And you also have all the pressure from above from the GM or senior leadership kind of pushing it down towards you. And the truth is, middle managers can either fuel the momentum or they can break it. Right. You don't really get to sit neutral and just watch how it all plays out when you're sitting in that position. So it's critical how, as a middle manager, you adapt to the program, understand the change. Because if you don't understand the change, how are you supposed to coach to it and help other people get through it? So, I think in the beginning, and we're talking about comp changes here, but any kind of change, you have to really understand it. You have to dive into it, ask questions, and really know the ins and outs, because you're going to be stuck in the middle, whether you like it or not. So first and foremost, I think that's the most important for sure. And, we've talked about this in previous episodes, but as a middle manager or an ASM, your key job is a translator. You are translating what's coming from above and putting it into language that your reps would understand. Not saying that they wouldn't understand the language, but you need to really get to their level, understand, right, and speak to it in terms that they would understand, like over a beer. If you can't really have that rep regurgitate what you are trying to say over a beer, then you lost. You want to make sure that they understand it just as well as you do. And with that, I mean, typically our comp plans now, we're talking GP per CE, all right? We're talking gross profit. We're talking things that reps typically don't deal with on a day-to-day basis. Where it's not really in their wheelhouse. They're not thinking of that. They're thinking of moving cases, building displays, cutting in new products, right? So taking that, translating that, what does that really mean to you? Well, hey, if I could shift my focus and move something over here that's a little bit more profitable, it's going to be less work, less effort, and I'm going to get paid double for that, or I'm going to make more money for that. So translating that down into what does it really mean for them is the great start. I mean, that's where we would really want to start this whole process.
I love that you bring up translator, because you are part therapist, part translator, and part champion, as well as like trying to play a triple threat from a middle management. Because when people have fears, they're going to talk to you in therapeutic. They want to understand what's going on. They want to understand why. You're going to need to then translate what that leadership group is trying to get done. And then if there is genuine concerns that you as a middle manager have, or your team's brought up, then you need to be the champion as well and push those concerns back up the ladder as well. And you don't want to be afraid to do that in some way, shape, or form with your leadership too. Ross, when you think about this and watching these things change from the outside and inside as well, how does being a champion, therapist, and translator land on you from an ASM position as well too?
Well, I loved your framing, Bud. We just, we're the guys that forced this down. I mean, I started on the operations finance side, and I slowly made my way towards sales, because, sales is
just more fun.
Well, it's not just more fun. It's, if you move the needle, 2 or 3% on sales, it's a hell of a lot more valuable than cutting 10% on the cost side. So, I think, the value is on the sales side, and it ties back to that middle management layer, which is you're not going to be successful without it. And I think that's the key, and it's framing it right, having that trust. We've talked about trust so many times, but I think that what we've run into through implementation is, and we've started to really lean into it, because we can see the difference when the middle management team's not bought in. Whether that's structural in terms of how we set it up, or whether it's how it's framed, or where the politics of the business lie between the reps and the senior leadership. But we personally, in our professional lives, have really leaned into this middle management layer, because we've recognized as we've gone here that our clients and their distributors cannot be successful without the middle management team engaged, understanding, and bought in.
Yep. They play such a vital role into the execution of any change you want to make, because particularly larger teams, like smaller teams where you are an owner operator and you see everybody every day, you can get away with stuff in a little bit different process, because they know who you are as a senior leader. They often are coming to your office, or they might even be coming to you more often, or you might play a little bit of a team lead, a little bit of middle management role, even though you are a senior leader in making strategic decisions. The larger and larger organization, there was a guy who was one of the CEOs of Walmart, came and spoke to MBWA, because we're coming up on that conference. So this is popping into my mind. And he's like, we lead the largest labor force in the world. We have over 1 million employees. All I can do is influence 20 or 30 people in my day. And if I have to then entrust those folks to then influence and lead their 20 or 30 people, and that cascades all the way down. So our business is run through, this is where my people are going, and I am doing my best to shepherd, and I'm often running behind them in some way, shape, or form. He said this from the stage in front of thousands of people, our largest retailer partner as an industry. And it was funny for me to hear that as somebody who's run smaller teams for his career rather than the largest, employee base in the world, is that middle management team is so important. because of the way that they can translate things out into the field and how they can get it done. Now, if you are somebody in leadership trying to bring your middle management team along, Mikey, any advice? Let's go there first. But from leadership to middle management, what are some of the best practices that you've seen where top performing leadership teams have set the middle management team up for success to start with?
Yeah. And this goes back to, I mean, we say this a lot too. It's the why. All right. I mean, just like our reps are going to need to know the why, our middle management needs to know the why. They need to understand it. Why is the company moving in this direction? Why was what we were doing before not working? Right. And then also there's a little bit of a sales process too. And I wouldn't say you're selling it in, but you do want to make sure that middle management, ASMs, they're all aware of the benefits that come along with this change, that for them and for their reps too. So when we're explaining this new process, we're also making sure we're bringing in all the whys and exactly the benefits that the ASM and the reps are going to benefit from this. And just like, and this is going to go down, this is from senior leadership to middle management, all the way down to the reps. We have to treat that like an account owner too, right? It's not a one-way street. We're not lecturing, we're not dropping this plan on somebody. It is a back and forth. We have to hear their concerns as well, answer their questions, reassure, their concerns, and check in often too, because their concerns, if they don't speak them, if they don't feel like they can really, really come to you and say, hey, I have an issue with this plan and this is why, or this might not work, or did we think about this? They're going to be thinking about that in the back of their mind. And if they didn't address it with senior leadership, when it comes down time to then coaching and supporting the reps, that's still going to be in the back of their mind. And when a rep brings it up, they're going to be like, yeah, I know. I've been thinking that too. I don't think it's going to work because, and it's going to just trickle all the way down like a waterfall, basically. And so, yeah, explaining that why, getting that out there, getting them 100% comfortable, answering all of their questions is the great start to just get it introduced to the ASM level or middle management level.
So perfect way to put it, Mikey. And like giving the team an opportunity to, hey, I need to ask some questions, like speak now or forever hold your peace kind of a concept. And if you're a senior leader, you also probably know who your whisperers are out there on your leadership team too. You might not be in a camp of where you're able to have everybody be open and honest with you because of the size of your team or because of the whatever's going on politically. Ross, we talk a bunch about the political design of the organization as well. That might not make the most sense, but somebody else on your team might be that better ASM whisperer. So you have to create space for that, right, Ross, when you're talking about this with ASM, so they can kind of learn from that whisper person or whoever is out there.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
I think now, to add to that too, real quick, this just popped in my head, but I was on a kickoff call last week with a client that was basically introducing VXP to their sales and middle management team. And I don't know if this is how it started, but in my head, I'm thinking this is a great way to start it, right? Instead of hey, this is a meeting, we're calling a meeting to tell you something. It's let's get together and talk about something, right? And that really brings everybody into the fold of like, oh, okay, well, hey, maybe we have some feedback on this too. It's not just being told to me in a PowerPoint and in a lecture. We have some two-way back and forth conversation, some dialogue here going on. And I think that's great. And then also this meeting really started off with a humongous why. And it was from the beginning where our industry really started, the SKUs we were selling, the volume that we were handling, all the way down to today's market. And right costs of things, the package breakout on what we're selling now, more profitable items, lower volume, right, really drove home that why as a team, but was asking the team questions. Does anybody know how much we make on a case of whatever? Does anybody know how much we make on a case of this energy drink? And for the most part, nobody really knew. They're like, probably a little bit more, right? But that really, really drove, and I think that's going to be a successful launch because of that too, and bringing everybody into that conversation.
I mean, you have to buy into our theory of the why and the why being important and why that and it being necessary with this generation to be transparent about the why. So I think first and foremost, you have to agree with that premise that we have.
The premise is correct though, because if anybody has children's on the call, it's like, why? Like our behaviors are rooted in trying to understand from a very young age. Nobody taught a kid to ask 100 reasons why, daddy, why, mommy, but they do. And that carries forward into decades and decades later into our adult life. We don't internalize it or say it out loud because mom and dad beat it in our head. And you don't ask why anymore.
Because she said so.
That doesn't mean that we don't feel that, though. It still exists there as well. The other component about this, Mikey, too, is that when you get that meeting together, and it's not so much of a notification as much as it is a collaboration, particularly with your middle management tier, that lets you have a little more ebb and flow and open up for some more questions and for more collaboration. You might have a harder time doing that directly with your reps, but if you can snuff out and flush out most of that stuff with the ASMs or the team leads first, that will let you be more directive. Top performing clients will ask questions like, where do you think this is going to land on the reps? What do you think their responses are going to be? Try to troubleshoot and problem solve some of those Q&A that the reps might have as a group, a cohesive unit of senior and middle managers before we even get in front of the reps too. And I'll say this time and time again from Chris Voss, one of the negotiation experts out in the world, speak to the negative makes less negative.
Absolutely.
And when you have things as a senior leader, you think that might be problems or concerns that your team is going to have. When you speak to those negatives, you'll make them less negative. And same point, if you are speaking to the positive, this is where this is going to help us. This is how this is going to transform our organization. You'll make them more positive as well at the same time too. So that calling out both ways works both ways. So now we are armed and we're feel good and we're ready to talk to reps, but we maybe haven't told reps about this yet. Mikey, when you are going to have this rolled out to the reps for the first time and the reps are going to start to see it brand new, what is the first thing as a team lead or an ASM you might want to touch on with the reps?
I think before you even bring it to the reps, you have to really analyze the whole plan. You have to digest it and then put it into your own words. All right. You are going to know your reps just as much as your reps are going to know their accounts. So putting it into their own language, their own words. A lot of middle managers think that their job is just to repeat the headquarters memo, right? Repeat it until the reps finally listen. Well, that's wrong. Your job is to keep the pulse. That means checking in regularly too, right? Not with just lectures. Keep curiosity. But so when we go to our reps, we don't want to take that memo and that exact verbatim what senior leadership said and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Right? We're going to take that. We're going to digest it into our own words and have an open conversation with our reps, whether it's in a group, whether it's one-on-ones. Typically, I prefer a group setting at first and then having those one-on-ones afterwards, because there's going to be concerns that your reps are not going to speak up in front of a group. So having that, addressing it as a group, hey team, this is the why, right? And bringing in a good story for the why, what wasn't working, the results of that not working, and this is the direction we're going to now, and this is what we're hoping to see and plan on seeing with this new structure, right? That's that sell-in process. Then they're going to get it. Okay, well, I see why we're doing this. Now, what does it mean for me, right? Well, how is that going to affect me and my everyday life? That's when we start working into, this is a good thing for you, because typically it is, and hopefully if you're making change, it is a good thing for everybody, right? And this is how it's going to affect you on your route and your everyday life. And if you're moving into something with VXP, it's back to now you're being rewarded for those extra activities that you had to do in the account that you weren't being rewarded for before. Non-alcoholic, energy drinks, wine, all the things that are a big pain in the butt to kind of do on the end that you don't get rewarded for, right? That's a huge benefit. That's a huge sell-in. Now the rep's going to capture that and, okay, well, hey, I've been complaining about this for years. They finally listen. This is going to be great. Now you're starting to get that buy-in. And then from there, it's all support. And we can get into that. I don't know if Ross has anything to add to that, but we can get into the support after this.
I mean, you don't think that reps should just be baby bird or should just get fed from mama bird like a baby bird and just be regurgitated everything over and over again, Mikey?
Not if you want their engagement. No, not at all.
I mean, I was going to
Ross, you're
say,
going to
bring
add
it back. Yeah, bring it back to our old adage. What are you trying to achieve? Why do we even have middle management? Right? Why can't we just, as senior management, interface directly with the sales team? And I think it goes to the crux of what is a team leader's job. And it's more than just being a backup sales rep or a regurgitation of what senior management is saying. So I think that's important to double into. And I think Mike, you nailed it well, which is you're a coach, you're a mentor, and you also have the ability, or should have the ability, to take what you're hearing from senior management and translate that in an appropriate way down to the next level of the company. So the role of middle management is far more than just to be there. They have a lot more responsibility. And I think that's why you want great people in those roles.
What I love you
Absolutely.
said, Mikey, is to reposition the plan in your own words. That to me is authentic. Like I need to make what I'm being told from my boss on the leadership side, retranspose it into something that is going to be authentic to my delivery, my communication style, and hopefully look at it through the lens of how might this land on your team, because you also have personality types on your team that are different as well too. So speaking from a position of authenticity and the way you're going to talk about it is a huge win. And thinking about that, Billy likes it direct. Susie understands things at a high level of academic. She's very academic. Chris is a little bit more slow and he needs to have one-on-one hand holding, and Kenny
Why are you
needs to be
picking on
told the
Chris?
same thing over and over again. I'm just picking on folks, and that I'm picking on random names, and that Kenny needs to be told the same thing over and over again until he finally grabs it. So these are all different personality types that land onto your team. And those are things that we as middle managers and team leads need to transpose out and be authentic. So I love that position too. And when you're authentic, the team's going to be very much more apt to they actually know what they're talking about. Like they can sniff immediately if you're just regurgitating something from the top. But if you really thought about it, internalized it, asked some questions, and start to understand it, when you share, there's not going to be as much upheaval or challenges because they actually know. Team lead here, boss, actually knows it a little bit more than what I think we're giving him credit for. There's like a vibe that happens when it comes out that way, right, Mikey?
Yeah, absolutely. You just don't want to repeat everything you hear. Hey, well, senior leadership's moving in this direction and this is what we're doing. Wrong way to come up, right? We all know our negative Nancy's on our team. They're going to take that and spin it into that group chat so fast, and it's going to come back on us too. So yeah, regurgitating.
Well, you're deferring. You're pretending like you don't exist.
Exactly.
Like I'm going to say these guys said this. Now you're going to do it.
Right.
Well, you've completely why are you even there?
Exactly. Good point, Ross. Yep, exactly. And that's as a middle manager, as an ASM, that is not a position you want to be in.
No.
Right. And I know that there are some out there to where it's just like, I'm just here to tell you what the big boss says. And I'm here to make sure that you do what the big boss says. No, my job is to make sure you succeed. My job is to make sure that, you're growing your route or you're doing the things that are good for the company. And however, I'm not going to just take everything that the big boss says and say, well, the big boss says do this. I'm here to make sure it's going to get done. No, it's going to come from me. It's going to come from Mike. And hey, here's a coaching opportunity. I saw this looks great, but hey, let's do this over here too, right? We're going to take that and put it into our own words. So no, that's great.
Well, I mean, by doing that, you've double failed. You failed to manage up because you're not taking responsibility for what big boss told you to do, right? You're just bypassing it and just saying, I'm not taking responsibility for this change. This is not me. And then you're failing to manage downward because your sales team's looking at you like, well, I basically have permission not to execute against this because you don't believe it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you failed both directions. Yep. I mean, you're a total failure.
And when I don't execute it against it, I know that you agree with me. I know that you're on my side and be like, I didn't get it done because it doesn't make sense.
Or it doesn't apply to me.
Or it doesn't apply to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you do disagree with it, then you need to manage up and challenge into authority with what you think, and get it in such a way that you feel comfortable enough to take it downstream. And there's nothing wrong with going downstream and saying, "Hey guys, I've got my reservations, but I got to trust the people above me. And here's the points that I think are good points. Here's the challenging points I think we have. But we're a company, we're a team. This is the way we're all deciding to go. So let's give it the best go we got here." So even if you don't believe it, there's a better way to frame it than "I was told to tell you this."
Yep. Exactly.
Well, that framing right there, Ross, is a perfect example of a story of like, hey, these are the things that we're working on. These are the things I've got concerns on. You right there, speaking in the negative, making it less negative. These are things I'm excited about that I think would be helpful. Speaking to the positive, making it more positive, and that it's our duty to work on this and to see how this evolves. That's what we're going to be doing on this team. And I want to be part of solving challenges and finding opportunities with you. And that's what I'm going to do as a team. Every time I hear "big boss," I can't help. It's just this. Ross and I and Mike all go to this Russian accent. It's a "big boss."
Big boss. You big boss?
You big boss. Big boss here.
You big boss? No, big boss is not here.
I love it.
And that I think that too, Ross, to go back to your point, that's if we backed up 10 minutes ago in this episode when we were talking about the two-way dialogue from when it was coming down from senior leadership into our middle management, and being able to not push back, but bring to the table some of those concerns. Hey, I know my reps are going to see this way, or they're going to have an issue with this, just letting you know. Or, hey, as I know my team, I can see that this may be a concern for the team. What else can I do to help them feel better about this? What else can I do to reassure them about this? Because I know my team. And then when it goes back down to the rep level from senior leadership or from middle management, then you have the questions or the answers to their questions, but also you trust in the process, and that's going to come down to them too. And we can say, I have seen the ins and outs of this program. I trust in this, and I have no reason to believe this is not a good thing. We have to put our best foot forward and try this out and make sure, and see how it comes out. But I do trust in the process, and I trust that the outcome is going to be good.
And I think this is the tie back to the episode last week with the banking of trust and relationship. I think this is a key tie back right now, because I think as senior management, you would much rather your middle management challenge you and say, "Hey, this is where I don't believe this is right. I don't believe this is going to work. I don't believe this. I'd rather you tell me. Mm-hmm. And if I can't convince you, I can always fall back on, hey, you don't say it like this, but hey, I'm cashing in some social capital with you. You're going to have to trust me on this one. I'm going to need you to come to bat, and I'm going to need you to trust me." Because you also know that if they don't believe 100% of what you're doing, they're going to have to use their capital downstream as well. And so I think that ties beautifully back to what we talked about last week, and making sure that as you're going, you're building trust with your team, especially your middle management that you rely on. Because to your point, Bud, you can't have an individual relationship with everybody. You just can't. Even in a small company organization, you just can't. So you've got to rely on that trust you've built over time if you're going to execute change that everybody's not. I mean, hopefully it's obvious and everybody buys it. But you got a lot of people, a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different background, a lot of different cultural experience, a lot of different personal experiences. So it's not going to be a one size fit all. So you may have to rely on that credit you built.
Well, let's pick on that. Hopefully everybody buys in from day one, because that is a perfect utopia, right? The negative, the exact opposite of that, is that everybody sticks their head in the sand and actively fights and actively disengages from the change. The more reality is that you're going to have a few people. If you have a team of 5 standard deviations, you're going to have one hyper engaged winner out the gate, sees it, gets it, understands it. You're going to have one hyper timid, hyper disengaged, hates it, doesn't want to do it. More than likely is, when we talk about change management in general, is more just the person most likely on your team to not like change. And then you're going to have 3 folks in the middle. You have one a little bit closer to the top, like jump out the gates, let's do this. One a little bit closer to the bottom, somebody who's disengaged, and somebody probably in the middle. Tactically, as an ASM, thinking about behavioral economics and just people's behaviors as psychology in general, lean into the people that are more engaged to the process early. Spend a little more TLC with them. The behavioral side of this is that if you can get the people that are organically connecting with the change early to succeed more faster, they will literally create a wake that drags everybody else along to a more engaged. Don't spend all your time focusing on the folks that are actively disengaged to start with. Work on them in phase 2 and phase 3. Get your star performers up and running, get them to the top of the list, get them winning, show the team, speak to how they're winning, and that will drag somebody who's disengaged across the finish line. Mikey, we've seen this firsthand over and over again in on-sites and also with, at Atlas and at other distributors too. Does that vibe with you? Do you think I'm crazy?
No. I mean, I think you're crazy in other ways, but not in this way. I think you're right on with this. And we all know who those individuals are within our operation, and the negative Nancy that could find a flaw in a bonus out of the blue, find a flaw in it. So we know those people. We know exactly how they're going to take this. And if we waste all of our resources trying to get them onto the same page, our top performers have now been left out on their own, left out, to dry and figure this out on their own. When we could have been spending a lot of that coaching them up, like you said, bringing up the rest of the team. Not only that, too, is when those individuals are 100% on board, 100% bought in, the others that are getting left behind, they're like, well, maybe I should start paying attention because Johnny's kicking butt over here and making a lot of money. So maybe I should pay attention to this a little bit.
And do not.
I mean, let me play with devil's advocate a little bit there. I mean, what are you going to do to prevent that person that's on the far end from being a negative wake that overtakes your positive wake? In other words, what are the things we can do to avoid allowing that wake to be too big? I mean, I get it. Focus on your star performance and let the success fall down the, cascade down. I think that's been very successful for us. But what if you've got somebody that's, is able to convince you that they're not going to be part of the program and they're allowed to be out there and they're out there, actively sabotaging the change.
Actively detracting. Yeah. That's a tough one to kind of steel man back in how you work with that. I always lean into lead by example, and you let the performance fall down where it falls. If you don't have that happening, that's a tough one. You might even need to lean across other teams to see where other teammates are doing well and your team is falling behind. The other piece I think you could lean into too, Ross, is if it is aligned, which when we do VXP launches, everything is extreme alignment from top to bottom, that if the team is actively disengaged, that's actively hurting your outcomes as a middle manager as well too. And you might be able to lean in some of the personal behavioral connections with your team around, hey, you guys are actively disengaged from this, and that's negatively hurting my performance as well when these other teams are doing better than us. So like, what are you guys, or what are we as a team not seeing that other folks are doing? That'd be one stepping off point that I'd make. Mikey, what about you?
I think it kind of comes back to coaching too. I mean, if the person is intentionally sabotaging the program, then I mean that's a behavioral thing, right? I mean, I don't know how much of that you're going to change, but if there's somebody that's just refusing to put in the extra work, the coaching comes back to accountability. And there's, when I say accountability, I mean it in a different way, right? When we're out and we're coaching, we're asking questions, curiosity questions. What worked? What got in your way, right? That right there opens up. Did you do anything? And did you have some obstacles? And then the third question is, what do you need from me? All right. Shows absolute support that you're here, not just here to nag and hold accountability, but I'm here to support you. So what worked? Well, I want to know, I'm curious, what didn't work? And can I help you with any of that? Right. Really moves on. And then when we're talking about accountability too, it's not, hey, I need you to do this, and if you don't do it, I'm yelling at you, right? It's coming out of, hey, we can do this together, right? And again, what do you need from me? And breaking it up into bite-sized chunks. So if I just drop this whole big giant reorder, new sales plan, new comp structure change. It's a lot to absorb. And like trying to eat an elephant in one bite, you're just not going to do it, right? But when we chunk that off into small little bite-sized pieces, maybe that rep that's having that hold up and that negative attitude can say, all right, well, I guess if I don't have to swallow this elephant in one bite, and I can just, I'm going to pick over here for a little bit, and pick over here for a little bit, maybe they'll come around a little bit, right? Like, hey, let's sit together. Let's look at some of our accounts on paper. Let's look at the data. I'm the data guy, right? Let's look and see where we're underperforming in our accounts. And then let's visit those accounts together and see if there's something we can't do to just pick it up a little bit. Pick 3 accounts. That's it, right? And then following back up. Hey, did that work? How was the outcome of that? All right. Not did you do that? It's how did that work? What did we see any kind of spike? Did we see any kind of increase out of what we did there? So I think a couple ways of going, it's personality, right? And as a middle manager, you get really, really good at shape shifting and figuring out people's personalities and adapting to those personalities and feeding into them, even the negative ones.
Ross, what would you do?
I mean, I think it's more often I think no, Mike, you led right into it, which is I think too often we see upper management fearing the reps, and that is a feeling that's toxic too. So if there's anything to be said to the upper management team, it's be resolute and be confident in your decision, and also be confident in your application across everybody. You don't want to be in a situation where it's, oh, that's Frank. Frank's been around for forever. Frank's all salary, and we're just going to keep him that way because he's just not capable of making change and whatever. That's toxic. Like if you're going to make the change and it's good for the organization, you need to go through and make it all the way through. So I guess my feedback, Bud, is actually directed towards the upper management, which is don't be afraid. Make sure you're uniform and you're confident in your decisions and your application.
Holding people accountable and not afraid of your staff is a very shift from 2020, 21, and 22, where a lot of folks were like, we just have to hang on to our people. Business is crazy. We don't want to lose folks because COVID times or everything else. And there was some, reverse logistics around staff didn't want to leave during that time because there was too much. And then we really kind of flipped to the short-term period of 2022 to 2024, where a lot of team members and employees and even clients of ours felt like that the reps or that employees had more power than the upper management does, and that they kind of held to the keys of the kingdom. Now, I think it's kind of backed off where it's more middle of the road, where I sit, we should treat our people well. We should get them excited to come to work, and they should love what they do. But we don't have to be fearful of them either. There are plenty of talented folks that we can hire in and that we can train up and that we can leverage into our community of team without having to be terrified of losing folks. And that has shifted in the last couple of years, but it's kind of come off of that back half of that COVID rift.
And I'll remind everybody again that this might be a good time to be in the beer and wine and spirits industry. If things aren't going well in your economy, it's a good place to hide out for a couple of years.
Now, once you've got this, Mikey, I want to pick out one more thing, that once you've got this and you've got it in your wheelhouse and you've got your team moving down a path, does this change, particularly around VXP, does this look like transformation to you, where we have to wholesale change everything we do overnight in our teams and in our market and with our account visits? Or is this more incremental? We can make small little experiments and small micro changes that pay off long-term over compounding of time versus shifting everything right away.
No, I think, exactly like I said in that last part, it's not, you're not going to eat the elephant in one bite. So you have to chunk it up. You have to absorb it at your own pace. And when you're making a change like over to VXP or any other comp plan that maybe now you're shifting on profits, and we have to let our mind and our process kind of catch up to that too. We're not going to just change our total process overnight. So thinking of it all right, hey, I'm not going to walk into every single account this week, look at every single SKU and every single door, but chunking that up a little bit. Hey, I realize that by you moving to this SKU in this brand family over this SKU as the dominant in that door, is going to make a difference. So maybe I'm just going to kind of look at each account as I go through today. Now, next time, I'm going to add one or two more things. But I think breaking it up and taking it at your own pace. I mean, it can be overwhelming if one day you wake up and you're like, okay, account plans changed. So is my mindset. And that's unrealistic. So definitely breaking it up, bite-sized pieces.
It's way more approachable. And I always talk about it when I'm on site in that try little experiments. Do it in 2 or 3 accounts. If it works good, do it in 2 or 3 more. If it works better, do it in a few more until it stops working. And then move on to your next experiment. And if you do that 4 or 5 times a week, we're talking about 1 account a day. But if you do that over 4 or 5 times a week, over a month period, you're talking about 25 or 30 or 40 things that you've got going as little experiments and baby transformations inside of each account that pay dividends for you. Just like a couple episodes where we showed a video from an on-site where a rep was moving, adding a shelf, taking 3 SKUs out, adding 8 SKUs in. That's one example there. Like that is going to pay that rep dividends next week and the week after and the week after as that product starts to turn and move. But we don't have to do that level at every single account right out the gate. There's just not enough time. There's a lot of things going on. You want to pick your best, lowest hanging fruit and incrementally move through the market little by little by little. Because you can't rush, right? Like you can't just wholesale change all of this overnight. There's just too much stuff. You still got to hit a cutoff time. You still got to go and meet all these other expectations that are out in the field from a sales rep's perspective too. You have to be real about it.
I mean, I don't envy being a sales rep, and I think we've talked about it. I mean, we have so much shit going on. We have so many SKUs, so many suppliers, so many ride-alongs, so many surveys, so many check the box, so many incentives, so many objectives. It's unreal. So to expect to make a change and have every single account be redesigned overnight is not possible, unrealistic, and if you believe that's the case, whether you're the rep or the middle management or upper management, then you're going to be disappointed.
You'd be disappointed, solely mistaken on what this is, and enjoy the process. Like this is a long process of sharing these changes and making this transformation. And the process is a ton of the fun around watching these things work little by little. So I love talking to folks and ASMs around pick out a brand, pick out a package, work on it for a month with your team and see how it goes, and then move to the next thing or pick a segment and move to the next segment after that. But don't be that operator that has to do all the distribution or like what it is in old school distribution drives. We don't have to hit 80% of our BNU accounts overnight with this type of a change. It can be incremental little by little by little.
And you don't have to be the most creative person either. Go figure out what the top 3 people are doing and steal what they're doing.
Exactly.
I mean, seriously. I mean, you could be like great at execution and say, I don't have to think about it. All I have to do is look what the top 3 people are doing and say, what are you having success with? And cool, that's what I'm going to do. Yep. Like you don't even have to say what Bud did and go try things along the way. No, go figure out what other people have had success with and benefit from their innovation.
Flat out steal from them.
Flat out steal. I mean, seriously.
Oh, I love it. Well, anything else, boys, on this topic before we kind of move to a little bit of news?
And a good plug on the other thing too, I said around how much stuff reps have to deal with. You might want to think about how much stuff your reps are actually having to deal with so they can spend more time thinking about and implementing positive change
and growing your business. 100% true.
Yep. Not to plug our philosophy again.
Shameless plug.
Shamelessly plug it.
Shameless plug.
Maybe you should be looking about what they're spending their time doing.
And as the representative for middle management and ASMs on this podcast, take a look at what you have your team leaders and ASMs doing as well, because you really need to have them have the time to coach our reps up and spend the time in the market coaching, not just policing. Being that second set of eyes in an account, because I mean, as a rep, we all know we become so complacent. We walk into those accounts every week. Somebody else walks in April and it could be your general manager or sales manager walks in. Why do you still have football stuff? It's April. Oh shit. I mean, I honestly didn't even realize it. Believe them, they don't. They become so complacent. They walk in and see the same things over and over. Super important for our ASM team leads to have that extra time, not only for coaching, but for second set of eyes, missed opportunities, and things like that too.
And I think the other thing, stepping back from that, and Mike, you'll probably agree with me, and you've walked into plenty of new customers. What you don't want to see is that the middle management team is engaged in being relief rep, relief merchandising, and not able to do the strategic coaching and all the really value add things you want them to be doing. So just as much as you want your reps engaged in value add activity, it goes back to, what is a middle management person supposed to be doing? And I get it. We're all team players. And if, 3 people call in sick, you got to do what you got to do. But if that's every single day and it's always a crisis, then, you're not getting to deploy those very valuable people to do the things you really, really need them to do.
There's a great tactical process that I've been introduced to that you ask your team on a quarterly basis or on a monthly basis, what are we doing that we need to stop doing? It's not adding any value. What are we doing that we need to keep doing that's adding an incredible amount of value that we need to spend more time on? And what are you missing out on an opportunity that we need to start doing? So it's what do we need to stop? What do we need to keep? And what do we need to start? And you need to be ruthless around stopping the things that are not adding value. You need to be diligent about what you want to keep doing, because keep doing means you can't do something new that might add more value as well. And you got to be careful about if you're going to add something new, that it doesn't distract too much from something that's incredibly important. So it's a balancing act along the way. And then kind of repeat that cycle over and over again. And you ask those good questions, people give you good feedback, and then hopefully you can implement them. On a news front, this is an opinion that I was looking for fun with you guys. Andrews Distributing, one of the largest distributors in the country, and Sazerac. I think this is like a fun idea or a fun topic. Because distributors have always been talked about with supplier partners around like, what are they doing? Like, what's doing well in the market? How could we do better? Like, what are the innovation out there? Like, these ideas come from distributor feedback. But this news story out of the Beer Business Daily comes right out of the idea that puts the story in the position that Sazerac has co-created these brands with Andrews, Nustro, Vamos, and Brightway. I'm probably saying Nustro wrong. And that Nustro's a malt-based Mexican cocktail flavor. Think margarita and paloma. Vamos, Beatbox 2.0, 11% ABV wine RTD. It's in a Tetra Pak, just like Beatbox as well. And then Brightway, 100 calorie, 0 carb RTD spin-off with a craft kind of a spin. So think of like 100 calorie, maybe a Cutwater competitor, but only in the 100 calories and maybe a little bit lower ABV. So the question that I've got here is like, is this a new model where we're going to be more public about co-creating and testing things? Maybe this is something only larger distributors do and smaller ones don't. Or is this kind of a really interesting, unique opportunity, unique market, unique supplier in Sazerac with their capabilities and their complexity and their ability to make all different things? And that Texas is just such a big market that they found this as a cool thing to do with some of their demographic consumer they have in there.
My feedback or my take on it is, I mean, what a buy-in, right? From Andrews, from a supplier. It's you wrote the playbook, you co-created the products and the pricing all in one. You have 100% of the buy-in. I love this. I think this is great. We preach to the choir all the time about suppliers listening to us, about market feedback more often, adapting, pivoting on their heels, rather than staying on their toes of what the market is doing. And this is more than just 3 new brands. This is a whole new playbook for innovation. I think this is great. We just need to see more of it.
It's interesting that it's organized, right, Ross? It's actually designed out in public.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the more pessimistic take on it. I mean, I can easily take your position too, Mike, but it's the opposite side of that is, well, I'm not getting the buy-in from my distributors, so let me engage them and bring them to the table on something I was going to make anyway. And then hopefully if it gets legs in Texas, that's an important market that I can parlay to the rest of the country. Mm-hmm. It's a more cynical take on it. Basically the same thing you said, but more cynical.
With a hidden
I far be it. I'm not a marketing person. I mean, for me, the market looks very crowded on RTDs. Tetra Paks. I mean, I don't know.
That's a package innovation people are chasing Beatbox's success, but Beatbox is so authentic to what it is. It's like Ultra is so authentic to what it is as well. Like that's why those brands are doing so well.
People don't buy Beatbox because of the Tetra packaging.
Not even close.
I don't think so either. I think you're right. I mean,
it come in one of those. Remember those big hug plastic containers with a tinfoil top that we had as kids? It could come in one of those. People still buy it off the shelf.
I'm just waiting for my salt beer for Heineken to bring that into the U.S.
Exactly. I love it. Well, it's an interesting idea. Distributors, for the longest time, and we have the institutional knowledge around our table. We have more market institutional knowledge around our specific markets and the way the industry works. We have less marketing institutional knowledge around like CPG and some of the stuff that goes on with big consumer packaged goods companies around how to market stuff well. We definitely do know our consumers better than the average Bayer supplier partner because we're in our markets and we've probably been in the market longer than, or in this industry longer than our supplier partners. So it's interesting collaboration. We'll have to keep an eye on it and see how it plays out in the real world.
Are there other people that are coming in with that kind of like skinny cocktail idea, the low calorie? Is that actually innovative? I mean, it's not a market that I look for.
It's something that are like people are looking at High Noon continuing to do so well. It's particularly low carbonation and low alcohol.
So I mean, by like low calorie, like low sugar. Is that
still
an
a
issue?
Thing for sure? Yeah, zero.
I mean, the good news is how it plays into what you said, but that we don't have as much marketing knowledge on the supplier side. But where I think it matters is that it plays into, if it's going to resonate, you want the sales reps to figure out where that is and place it appropriately and build the brand. And I think that's where we come in terms of making sure that, structurally you're setting yourself up that these brands have the best chance of success, where they have the highest probability of success, and getting back into the idea that we build brands. And if these products are well marketed, well priced, high margin to the distributor, and resonate with the customer, then you got to believe those customers are, I say customers, those clients of ours that are well implemented on BXP, those products have the best chance of success they're going to have.
They'll move. Yeah, they'll do well. Well, as we record this, we will only be 1 week away until the MBWA convention in Las Vegas, and the VXP team will be out at booth 1614 in the Milano Ballroom. Also on Tuesday morning, that will be October 14th at 8 a.m. You cannot miss our live tapped in session, which is Who's Wagging Who, Fixing Broken Incentives and Take Back Control of Your Sales Strategy. We'll be having a couple of distributors join us as well too. So this will be a fun 8 a.m. call. If we've said this a couple times in the pod, for any listener who brings a beer to the 8 a.m. podcast recording, we will have a special gift for you as well too. So we're excited to see everybody there. Mikey today was saying, Ross, that he's got anxiety about going. I said, excited or anxiety? He's like, I got to get new clothes. I got to do all this. He's got a lot of stuff going.
Stuff to do, man.
A lot of stuff to do.
Well, I actually had to figure out what actually I'm going to bring too, is simply because I don't have access to my house and my wardrobe. I'm still living out of a suitcase from Europe.
I don't have to get new clothes.
I've got like 3 shirts that are somewhat appropriate, so I had to make sure they're dry cleaned and pressed, because that's all I have. I only have 3 nice shirts, and it's going to look like. And if you see me, it's going to look like I'm dressed for summer. I'm going to be wearing like pastels, like if I was like in Italy, but it's going to be cold.
In the desert.
Actually, right? It's warm in Vegas. I mean, the fact that I'll be wearing like a pink striped shirt will be somewhat appropriate.
You'll probably fit in. It'll probably be okay. As long as you're wearing a blue blazer, you can always fit in with the blue blazer brigade.
Here, bring me your spare green one.
Spare green one. I love it. Well, you boys rock. Don't forget to stop by the booth out in Vegas again. That's 1614 Milano Ballroom. And then Tuesday, October 14th at 8 a.m. Do not miss us in person. So y'all rock, and cheers.
Cheers.